Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalam ala Sayyid al-Mursaleen Nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. I ask Allah to make this a circle where we can benefit from the statements of the Prophet ﷺ, and that He allows us to get closer to Him and to His Messenger ﷺ, so that we can be saved and become better individuals and gain His pleasure and His Jannah in the Akhirah. We've reached Hadith number 9, and as we have seen in the first few hadith, it appears as if Imam Nawawi has systematically put those hadith which are connected to Aqidah. So we had the first hadith, which is the hadith of Niyat, then we had the hadith of Jibreel, then we had the hadith of Buny al-Islam, then we had the hadith of Qadar, and in the last session we looked at about 4 or 5 hadith which were talking about practical aspects of Islam. So we had the hadith of Aisha of Bid'ah, and we had the hadith of Nu'man ibn Bashir of Halal and Haram, and so forth. And now we have the 9th hadith, which is the hadith of Abu Hurairah, whose real name is Abdurrahman ibn Sakhr. Not many people refer to him with his real name, but that's his real name, Abdurrahman ibn Sakhr, who came from Yemen. And he said that he heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam say, "Ma nahaytukum anhu fajtanibuh." What I have prohibited you from, then avoid it. وَمَا أَمَرْتُكُمْ بِهِ فَأْتُوا مِنْهُ مَسْتَطَعْتُمْ. And whatever I have ordered you with, then do that as much as you are able. فَإِنَّمَا أهلك الذين من قبلكم كثرة مسائلهم واختلافهم على أنبيائهم. Those people that were destroyed before you because of the abundant questioning and the disputes that they used to have, or the differences that they used to have with their prophets. This has been reported by Bukhari and Muslim. The context of this hadith, as has been stated by Ibn Rajab, is that the Prophet ﷺ was talking about the obligation of the Hajj. He was talking about the obligation of the Hajj. So one of the people that was there asked, are we supposed to do the Hajj every year, or is it something that we should do once in a lifetime? And then the Prophet ﷺ said this statement: don't ask too many questions. Don't ask any questions that will not bring about benefit, because this it appears, and as Ibn Rajab goes on and he talks further about this mas'ala, is that questions which are hypothetical, questions which have no benefit, questions which could be harmful for other people, questions that maybe you are not really sincerely intending to find the answer for, are things where the Prophet ﷺ here is referring to فَإِنَّمَا أَهْلَكَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ كَثْرَةُ مَسَائِلِهِمْ. Excessive questioning, excessive burdening questioning, and this would lead to hardship for yourself, hardship for other people, and maybe even hardship for the whole ummah. Imagine if Allah had made it wahi at that time that every single one had to go for Hajj because of this man's question. Imagine the implications. So this is what the hadith is referring to. And many of the ulama of the mufassirun have put this hadith under the ayah where Allah says, "Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la tas'alu an ashya in tubda lakum tasukum." Don't ask about things that if it becomes apparent to you the answer to that question, then it will be something burdensome or something as a proof against you. So all of this teaches us that we should be careful on how we should speak, we should be careful on our attitude towards religion. And Ibn Rajab rahimahullah said that we should only really inquire about something which will get you to the Jannah of Allah. Your questioning about the religion should be something which brings you forward towards Allah and the Jannah, not something which will be a hujjah against you, a proof against you, or make you even prone to the fire. And this is a big problem, unfortunately, that we have nowadays. People ask many hypothetical questions, they ask questions which they don't really want to have the answer for, and then they just think, what about this, what about that? And they don't think about the implications of their speech. And this is why Ibn Rajab is saying here, think before you speak, and if you genuinely want to find out something about the religion, then ask about what station you have with Allah. How can you gain the pleasure and the mercy of Allah? Not just something hypothetical about Allah and His religion, because that's not good manners. And this is what the Quran teaches us also. The Prophet ﷺ was asked about the hour, يَسَأَلُونَكَ عَنِ السَّاعَةِ أَيَّانَ مُرْسَاهَا, and Allah tells the Prophet ﷺ to respond by saying that this is not any of their business, this is only for Allah, and it's a right of His rububiyyah. And also Allah says in another place about the soul, وَيَسَأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ, they ask you about the soul, tell us about the soul, give us a description about the soul. But this question has no benefit. This question we will not be able to even understand and comprehend. So this is why Allah doesn't even answer the question. Allah doesn't even tell the Prophet ﷺ to answer the question. Allah says, قُلُ الرُّوحِ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي وَمَا أُوتِيتُ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. This is something that is the knowledge that belongs to Allah, and much of the knowledge of the unseen has not been given to you because it doesn't concern you. And this is also something which is very important to us, which is that Islam doesn't obligate and it doesn't make us responsible or accountable for something which we are not able to do, which we are not able to practice. And unfortunately now, as the times that we are living in, people are delving into conspiracy theories, they're delving into issues which are non-factual or completely subjective, completely, some of it is things that they can imagine or something that they presume even, and then they even try and attribute that to the religion. And unfortunately that's led to bloodshed, that's led to countries having instability and all sorts of things that have happened because of people not asking what would actually benefit them and gain them towards Allah and His Jannah. Rather than asking, they were asking things that will actually be detrimental to people, things that are hypothetical, etc. And this is why Imam Malik, rahimahullah, when he was asked a question which was hypothetical, which wasn't really realistic, he used to respond with this ayah. So imagine a person comes to Imam Malik and asks him a fiqh question. Imam Malik didn't even answer. He used to say, وَيَسَأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي. That was his answer. It's not your business. Ask things which are going to be constructive. Ask things that you are actually going to go away and benefit from the answer and implement. So this is the rough idea of the hadith, but there's also other benefits from the hadith. Ibn Rajab rahimahullah goes on then to say that the religion is clear. The Prophet ﷺ has told us what is haram, he has told us what is halal, and he has left us with a religion which is clear as its day, and what we have been commanded to do is to stick to this and not get into anything else. The religion has been made clear and that's enough now. Ibn Rajab then also says rahimahullah that if there is a genuine need for you to learn, it may be a question that you have and it may not be something that you are necessarily going to implement, but if it is something that you genuinely want to learn, then there is no harm in this. But what appears to be the case in this context here, the person was asking, do we have to do Hajj every year? It doesn't appear that the person was asking for the sake of seeking knowledge so that he can preserve the religion and convey the religion. Rather, it was just a general question, and this is what the Prophet ﷺ rebukes. So now you have to think about the scenario. You could have one scenario, but look how the intention changes. Look how, imagine if Abu Bakr asked this question, or Umar asked this question, it would be completely different. And we see this in many different hadith, in different contexts and different scenarios. So the point, like we were saying before, is what we have been commanded to do is ask questions and seek how to improve our iman, and not how to make us further away from Allah and make us worse individuals. Rather, what we need to do is seek to advise one another, advise ourselves. Imam al-Awza'i rahimahullah said, when Allah doesn't want good for a person, when Allah doesn't want good for a person, or He doesn't want barakah in that person's ilm, ulkiya ala lisanihi maghalit, He puts on his tongue many discrepancies and errors. And then he said, Imam al-Awza'i, think about how this is quite, it's very stark even until today. فَلَقَدْ رَأَيْتُهُمْ أَقَلَّ النَّاسِ عِلْمًا. That you see these people today, or a sign of these people is that you will see them that they are the minimum in knowledge and the less beneficial in knowledge. Asking questions, thinking about things that are hypothetical, maybe even asking questions so that they can go and backbite people and backbite policies of governments and talk about politics, etc. A sign, Imam al-Awza'i rahimahullah said, a sign that this person has no barakah in what he has learned from the religion, no barakah in his actions, is that he just keeps talking about the negativity of others, negativity of the religion, negative, pessimistic all the time. You will see this person as being the most deficient in knowledge. May Allah protect us. Ibn Rajab rahimahullah also extracts from this hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, مَا نَهَيْتُكُمْ أَنْهُ فَاجْتَنِبُوا, that whatever you have been told to stay away from, whatever you have been prohibited from, then you leave it, you abandon it. And Ibn Rajab says that this is actual ilm. It's not how much hadith you know, it's not how much ayat you know, it's not how much how much you've studied and where you've been. It's about your exposure to the religion and your implementation of it. This is actual ilm. This is what Allah wants from you. So you can have a child 10, 15 years old and he doesn't know much of the religion, but you will find him being very close to Allah, being very pious, always trying to do the right thing. But then you might even find somebody who is very old and he's maybe a hafiz of the Quran, etc., but you will see him being very weak in his religion. How does that weigh up? He has more hadith, he has more ilm, he has more Quran, but this person has very little, but still his actions are better and purer, and you can see that in his life, you can see that in his attitude, you can see that in his character. This is what Ibn Rajab rahimahullah is saying here, that ilm is not to have kathrat al-hadith, kathrat al-masail, kathrat asking many questions, knowing a lot of different issues, knowing different aspects of the religion. Rather, the first clause of this hadith determines your level of religious seriousness. مَا نَهَيْتُكُمْ أَنْهُ فَاجْتَنِبُوا, what I have told you to stay away from, stay away from. So now when this hadith, when an ayah comes to you, when a hadith comes to you, when a ruling comes to you, khalas, that's enough. And this is Iman. Nafi ibn Zayd from the Salaf, he went on to quote Nafi to cement what he was saying. Nafi ibn Zayd was one of the Salaf rahimahullah. He said that ar-rasikhuna fil ilm, those people who are firmly established in knowledge. What do you think he said? He knows many hadith, he knows many ayat, he has been with the imams for 50, 60 years now. He says, mutawadi'un lillah. You will find them being humble and subservient towards Allah. وَالْمُتَذَلِّلُونَ لِلَّهِ. Again, having a level of subserviency and also that coming now with fear and hope. لِلَّهِ فِي مَرْضَاتِهِ. Seeking Allah and having ikhlas in Him and seeking His pleasure. Nafi ibn Zayd is saying this, that this is how you can see a person is firmly grounded in knowledge. And then he goes on to say that he doesn't see himself as being elevated above others, and he doesn't seem to belittle other people. What he has is that he knows from the religion and he implements it, and he does this out of humility and seeking closeness to Allah and His pleasure. He also extracted from this hadith, Ibn Rajab rahimahullah, and this is a very delicate point, I thought this is very prudent from him also, rahimahullah, that good deeds can be done by both good and bad people. Good deeds can be done by good and bad people. This masjid, just 6 hours ago, was full. 300, 400, 500 people. Women's side full, men's side full. Everyone's sitting there listening attentively. Some of them left their workplace, some of them left their school, some of them left their lunch to come for the sake of Allah. But in that gathering, unfortunately, some of them people, we won't see them again until next week. They won't pray again. That's it. It's unfortunate. This is what Ibn Rajab rahimahullah is saying. Good deeds and bad deeds can be done by both people. It's possible. But bad deeds can only be refrained from people who are sincere. This is the khasa for those people who have iman and closeness to Allah. That's where the test really is. That's where you test your sincerity, and he calls these people as being the Siddiqun. Good deeds and bad deeds can be done by people, and we don't even know the intention as well. This is another aspect or another angle that you can look at it from also, that a good person may be doing good deeds and you might see him in the halaqat, you might see him in the masajid, you might see him in front of Salat al-Fajr, good deeds, but he might actually be a bad person due to his intentions. But only bad deeds, rectification, humility, seeing yourself as being worthless, seeing yourself as being deficient, can only be done by those people who are truly sincere to Allah. And these are the people who will end up resulting in leaving doing the bad deeds also. So the more you realize how weak you are in front of Allah, you will review before you speak. I want to say something about, but I really want to say he's itching. I want to say something about him. What's your intention? Is it so that you can get one over him? Is it so that you can seem to be better than him? Is it could be, so that other people won't like him? The person who abandons this is sidq in his heart. And he's doing this only for the sake of Allah. And he will see this on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Ask Allah to make us of them, make us from the Siddiqun. Also from this hadith, Ibn Rajab rahimahullah stated that he went and now goes on to a mas'ala which talks about, before we go into this, to support this idea that Ibn Rajab was talking about, he quotes a hadith which has some weakness in it, but I mean it looks like as if we can maybe, because it says in the editing of it that it can possibly have some shawahid and supporting chains which could strengthen the level of this hadith. The Prophet ﷺ told Abu Hurairah, "Ittaqul maharim," fear the things that Allah has forbidden, takun a'bad an-nas. When you leave these prohibited actions, ma nahaytukum anhu fajtanibu, you will be the most elevated from the people. You will be the most closest to Allah from the people. You will be the most enslaved to Allah from the people. But this, the Prophet ﷺ has specified to Abu Hurairah that you leave the maharim, that you leave the things that Allah has made haram for you. And this clearly shows that when you do that, constantly you're reviewing, and constantly you're in an act of ibadah. If you want to say something about your brother, you want to say something about your relative, you're in a family gathering and you're thinking, I've had enough of this person now, I really want to say something about this person now. If you refrain, you will be from the most enslaved from all of those family members. Be elevated with Allah. Then Ibn Rajab rahimahullah goes on to talk about a mas'ala where the ulama have khilaf in, and the khilaf is very, very strong, as you will see. What's better? Prophet ﷺ started here with "Ma nahaytukum anhu fajtanibu." Is leaving and abandoning sins better? وَمَا أَمَرْتُكُمْ بِهِ فَأْتُوا مِنْهُ مُسْتَطَعْتُمْ, or doing actions that the Prophet ﷺ has obligated or recommended? Which one's better? So if you had a choice, the question now, if you had a choice, leave doing an action or do an action, which one do you think is more beloved to Allah? I'm asking. Doing the fard. So a person may be doing zina and riba and all these sins, but as long as he's doing his fard, that is better. Or would you say to this person, leave the zina, brother, leave the riba, brother? Okay, maybe Salah is slightly different. He has his own set of rulings. Sadaqah. Give sadaqah or stop looking at haram. What advice would you give to this Prophet?
It looks that taking the nahi is more mustahab than because
the nahi is the mustahab. Tark al-nahi is mustahab.
No, I'm saying tark al-nahi is afdal, is better than amal. He said ma nahakum anhu fantahu. Here is clear.
So here, because are you saying because the Prophet ﷺ started with what's prohibited?
Yeah.
Or because he
gave us even here
as much as you are able. Yeah, but what is haram, stop it. Abrupt.
Yeah. That's what it looks like.
Anybody agree with this? It looks like everybody's agreeing. Muhammad. So what do you give precedence to, the negation or the affirmation? This is the question. What do you give precedence to, the negation or the affirmation?
The negation.
The negation, because...
Same way, like, you should stop worshipping idols before you worship Allah alone. So,
Tayyib, that's good. So you should stop worshipping idols before you worship Allah. What do you think, Shiraz? You agree with everyone? So everyone's on the same page here, yeah? Tayyib. La ilaha illallah. Okay. So now, if you tell a brother, okay, look, stop doing the haram, what does he do then? Just stop. What does he do then?
Then you tell him to do the good.
He's going to be doing something. Internally, externally, he's going to be doing something. So you say to him, brother, akhi, listen, stop looking at the haram things. Stop. He's gone through that process, he's put it down. Now what does he do?
He gets reward when he stops.
He's got the reward. But my question here is, have you replaced it with something? This is what Ibn Taymiyyah is saying. Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, said that the amr takes precedence over the nahi. The amr takes precedence over the nahi. So the affirmation takes precedence over the... Why? He gives a series of reasons. Number one, he says the command is much more important than the nahi, because the first things you're going to be asked about Yawm al-Qiyamah, what's the first thing? Salat. You're going to be asked about your mobile phone? No. Salat. Then dima, and then all these other things. These things that you have done which are most important, from these are the wajibat. Number one. Number two is when you replace, this is my question now, when you replace the haram with the amr, when you replace the nahi with the amr, when you replace the negation with the affirmation, and you give precedence to affirmation to the person, what happens is that the sin gets wiped out anyway. So if you say to the brother, listen, I'm not saying don't give him advice, that's not the point here, but if you say to him, look, leave watching the muharramat, what are you going to replace it with? You've just told him, مَا نَهَيْتُكَ عَنْهُ فَاجْتَنِبُوهُ. That's it, you've stopped it at that. But Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, وَمَا أَمَرْتُكُمْ بِهِ فَأْتُ مِنْهُ. If you do that, start with that. Start with that. Come to the masjid, brother. Come to the masjid, start praying. Then you can build upon that. Then you've put some kind of iman in that person. When you start doing that, his sins are getting wiped out anyway. That's point number two. Point number three, that a person is not expiated for leaving sins. Yes, he's rewarded for leaving the sin, but he doesn't get the virtue of expiation that he would do if he did actions. We've said this before. For example, when you wake up, Salat al-Fajr, you've got 3 knots on your head. Shaitan's telling you, just forget it. It happens to all of us. You could be the most pious person or not. It happens to every single one of us. Shaitan will tell you, just go back to sleep. It's a long night. The Prophet he told us, it's a long night you got. It's still dark outside, doesn't matter. But if you make the dhikr, what happens? The knot goes. You go, you make wudu, you come to the masjid, you pray at home, which is preferable. You pray two. What happens if you pray those 2 rak'at? What happens if you pray those 2 rak'at? You're not sure? Your dad needs to tell you, inshallah. 2 rak'at, better than the whole dunya and everything inside of it. Every single thing inside, 2 rak'at. And then you walk to the masjid, every single step, reward is being given to you, and every single step with the other foot, you are being expiated. You come to the masjid. When you say Ameen with the Imam, what happens? And if it's muwafiqah with the malaika, if it's simultaneous with the malaika, with the angels, all of your sins are forgiven. So look at what happens. Just from 10 minutes of actions, expiation after expiation, reward after reward. This is a virtue only given to those people who do actions. That's point number 3. Ibn Taymiyyah then goes on to talk about that when you do actions, you become beloved to Allah. You could be doing sins, but Allah could still love you. You go back, you make tawbah. Look look at this slave of mine, he's coming back to me. If you do it, then inshaAllah, bi'idhnillah. He goes on, he's got more arguments. But he says, this is the ajib thing what Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, and look what Allah gave to him. He said that all of this can be found in one story in the Quran. What story do you think that is? No. It's a good try, but there's a story where good and bad fought each other, and good became triumphant because of what the Prophet ﷺ is talking about here. Adam alayhi salam fell into a sin. What did he do? He didn't do the first part of this hadith. مَا نَهَيْتُكُمْ عَنْهُ فَاجْتَنِبُوا. Allah told him don't go near the tree, but he went near the tree. Did he have tawbah for him? Was he elevated? Was he given Jannah again? Was he given righteous progeny? Was he given a Nabi and after Nabi from his childhood, from his progeny? Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said that Allah knew this from Adam even before he created him. But from his wisdom and his decree, he fell into that sin. He went onto earth, and now he'll go back into Jannah better than how he was before. Because he went through that process of tawbah and istighfar and sinning and erring and then going back to Allah. So this is the first part. But who was worse from the two? Adam or Iblis? Iblis. Why? Because he didn't do the second part. وَمَا أَمَرْتُكُمْ بِهِ فَأْتُوا مِنْهُ مُسْتَطَاعٍ. He makes sujood. أَبَى وَاسْتَكْبَرَ وَكَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ. So this is what Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah is saying, is that we should give more importance and focus and direction in our iman, in our Islam, in our da'wah, in creating people to do good deeds. Not necessarily keep going on about what is haram, negativity and punishment. And I think this is extremely prudent today, and I was actually talking to someone about this after the khutbah, which is that if you're going to use language in the khutbah, and other people know about this also, if you're going to use language in the khutbah which is threatening, which is just constantly talking about punishment, if you're constantly rebuking people, what's that going to do to the people? People are not going to accept that. People will just think, this guy is always talking about haram. How many times do you hear that? Everything's haram. Just leave Islam. There's no alternative that's given to them. Everything's a punishment, so forget it. I don't see no punishment happening. Just forget it. Rather, like Ibn Taymiyyah, this is one of the fruits that, or one of the branches that you can gain from this mas'ala, is that you focus on rectification, focus on action, focus on optimism, focus on how you can do something better to fix it, rather than saying if you don't do this, what will happen. But the majority of the ulama was with you guys. You are the ulama here. The majority, this is what Ibn Rajab goes on to, and this is outside of the shara of Ibn Rajab, but I thought I'd put it in because I think what Ibn Taymiyyah said is very, very important. And as you can see, if there is khilaf on the issue, then the khilaf is extremely strong. Ibn Rajab rahimahullah said that the nahi is given precedence. Why? Why did you guys say that you should stay away from? Why did you say that the abandonment takes precedence? Yeah, that's a good point. Once you're in something, it's difficult for you to get out. The majority of ulama have said something which is similar, and they've used the word that is safer. If you stay away from what Allah has told you to do from then, you go on Yawm al-Qiyamah, what's He going to question you about? I haven't done anything. And Allah is laysa bidhallamin lil abid. So, as long as you don't do anything, that's fine. That's point number one. Point number two, every single one of us have desires and lusts and wants and weaknesses. So staying away from that is actually harder than doing. Staying away from that is actually harder than doing. طيب. Bring the brother to the masjid. He's prayed. What's better now? You told him to pray, leave the nightclub, come and pray. He's come to pray. Now what is better? Him externally praying or internally thinking about the nightclub? You see now in this just one surah, in this one example, you can see the Masala. Ibn Taymiyyah saying, no, at least he's here, he's not in the nightclub. At least he's here, he's not doing something haram. The other group of people are saying that if he strove hard, having ikhlas, having khushu', fighting himself in that salat, that would have been better for him. That would have been more virtuous. And that will bring about more reward. So you can see, look at the argument that they've gone back and forth, back and forth. Ibn Rajab, like Ustadh Ariff was saying before, Ibn Rajab said that also we have an indication where the Prophet ﷺ said, فَاجْتَنِبُوا. He didn't give you an option. If something is haram, leave it. If something is haram, leave it. But doing is easier. And he's given you an option to do. So do what he has told you to do as much as you are able to do it. So the point here is that they've said that nahi is safer and it requires more sabr. How much does it cost to go for Hajj? 6,000? That's a cheap one, I think. 5,000. Average, let's say 5,000, yeah? Some of the Salaf said, when you leave off sins, when you fight yourself, when you leave off the ma nahaytukum anhu fajtanibu, when you start doing that process on a daily basis, look at what they said, it's better than doing 500 Hajj. 500 times 5,000, 2.5 million. I'm not clever, I calculated it before. 2.5 million pounds. You forget, obviously the greater the prohibition, the greater the reward. And this is not something which we will say that this is tawqifi and it's from the Prophet ﷺ and is part of the religion, but what they are saying here is the emphasis from the Salaf is that the more you leave sins, the greater your virtue, the greater the reward. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz said, "Layst taqwa is not qiyam al-layl wa siyam al-nahar." We've had 2 days of fasting. Some people may have carried that on and thought, it's a nice day, I've had a good day of fasting and protecting myself, prayed in the night, done extra good deeds. And as he said, Umar bin Abdul Aziz, one of the grandchildren of Umar al-Khattab, one of the righteous Karifs and the ulama of the Salaf, he said, this is not taqwa. One of the Salaf, the Imams of the Salaf said, your idea of taqwa is wrong. You think you're going to fast all day and pray at night, and you think this is taqwa, that's wrong. He said, وَالتَّخْلِيدْ فِي مَا بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ وَلَكِنْ, or doing this and doing that and doing excessiveness in good deeds. وَلَكِنْ التَّقْوَى, he said, taqwa is أَدَى مَا أَفْتَرَضَ اللَّهُ وَتَرْكْ مَا حَرَّمَ. To do what Allah has told you to do and stay away from what He has told you to stay away from. فَإِنْ كَانَ مَعَ ذَلِكَ عَمَلْ فَهُوَ خَيْرٌ إِلَى خَيْرٍ. That you do what Allah has told you to do and you stay away, and this is the emphasis here, that you stay away from what Allah has told you to stay away from, and anything upon that you want to build, then this is goodness upon goodness. And unfortunately, this book, like we were saying before, there's many statements from the Salaf and we have to skip some of them, but there's one here that stands itself out, in which one of the Salaf, Yazid ibn Maysarah rahimahullah, he's actually talking to us here today, I feel. And he's talking about ways that a young man can protect himself. Young man can protect himself from his own desires. Allah talks about certain ayats in the Quran, and He says, يَقُولُ اللَّهُ فِي بَعْدِ الْكُتُبِ, or بَعْدِ الْآيَاتِ, I think you should say, بَعْدِ الْآيَاتِ أَيُّهَا الشَّابِ. So Allah is saying roughly in some of the ayat, He's addressing the youth, the young people. أَيُّهَا الشَّابِ التَّارِكْ لِشَهْوَتِهِ. Young man who wants to let go of the woman and let go of the drugs and let go of the alcohol and let go of the money and the clothes and the dunya and the music and all of these things. Whoever does this in his youth, min ajli, whoever does this for the sake of Allah, so he is paraphrasing what Allah is saying in His book. Whoever does this for the sake of Allah, then you are anta indi, you are in the same status كبعض ملائكتي. You are in the same status as some of my angels, my close angels that I have with me. And again, like we were saying before, these statements of the Salaf, they can't be taken as being wahi. You can't say that Allah said. But again, we get the idea of it being tawqifi, we get this idea of them seeing hidayah in it. And it's not tawqifi, that was my point, it's not tawqifi. But some of the ulama have stated that if a tabi'i, one of the Salaf, have said something which is out of reward and from the unseen, then it is possible that he's heard it from a companion who then heard it from the Prophet ﷺ. But we can't say that, and every single narration needs to be inspected in its own merit. The point here from this hadith, we can learn several principles, and just to conclude this hadith here, is that the Salaf saw great emphasis in purifying yourself, and you would do that by leaving what is prohibited. Ibn Rajab rahimahullah then goes on to say that some of the Salaf used to say desires and lusts in a person is like a fire inside of his body. This is the parable. You leave that fire igniting, then it will just burn your soul away and it will burn your body away. This is the statement of some of the Salaf. So if you give emphasis on ma nahaytukum anhu fajtanibu, then your spirit and your body and your soul and your actions, you will see a definite improvement from. Also from this hadith, we have different principles in understanding the religion and in fiqh, and one of them is that Allah is a principle, la taklif ma la yutaq, that Allah will not hold you accountable for something that you are not able to do. Because the Prophet ﷺ told us, if you are able to do it, then do it as much as you can. If you can stay away from something, then leave it. But if you can't do something, then do it according to the best of your ability. So a person can't pray standing up, he can pray sitting down. This is from the rahmah from Allah. And this is a principle that the ulama have gained from this hadith. And also another principle that we find from this hadith also, la wujub ma'al ajz. Nothing is wajib if you are not able to do so. So if a person is not able to fast because he is really old, would you say now you still have to fast 20 hours? No, of course not. He has to take medicine, etc. So from this, the Prophet ﷺ said, وَمَا أَمَرْتُكُمْ بِهِ فَأْتُوا مِنْهُ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. If you are able to fast for 20 hours, then do it. If you are not, then the principle that the ulama have applied, la wujub ma'al ajz. So this is hadith number 9, in where the Prophet ﷺ has guided us to say, or to stick to avoiding the prohibitions, enduring ourselves and trying to motivate ourselves to do what is khair, and avoid something which will not benefit you in your deen and your akhirah. Hadith number 10, al-Hadith al-Ashir, on the authority of Abu Hurairah, who said, the Prophet ﷺ, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, indeed Allah is pure, inna Allah tayyib, la yaqbal illa at-tayyiba. He doesn't accept anything but what is pure. And indeed Allah has ordered the believers with what He ordered the messengers. Inna Allah amara al-mu'minin bima amara bihi al-mursalin. فقال ta'ala, Allah said, Ya ayyuha ar-rusul kulu min tayyibat wa'amalu saliha. Eat from the goodness that He has provided you from, and then do good deeds. وقال تعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا كلوا من طيبات ما رزقناكم. O you who believe. So here's the parable. Here in the beginning, Allah has commanded, in the first ayah, the messengers. Then in a similar ayah, Allah has commanded those people who believe. So this is what the Prophet ﷺ is saying here, that the order for us believers is exactly the same address that He gave to His messengers. ثم ذكر الرجل. Then He mentioned a man who came from a very long distant journey. He was disheveled and he was dusty. And then he reached his hands out to the sky. يمد يديه إلى السماء. He wants to make dua. So he says, Ya Rabb, Ya Rabb. O Lord, O Lord. ومطعمه حرام ومشربه حرام وملبسه حرام وغذي بالحرام فأنى يستجاب له. another narration, فَأَنَّا يُسْتَجَابُ لِذَلِكَ. He came from a long distant way. He was disheveled. He was in a time of need. He needed something. And he made dua. And he's saying, Ya Rab, he's making dua only to Allah, having tawheed, having ikhlas. But his food was haram. His drink was haram. His clothes were attained unlawfully. Or maybe the clothes itself were haram. He was nourished with haram. So how is it possible? How can it be conceivable that his dua will be answered? This is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Again, another hadith of akhlaq. Another hadith. Now in this hadith we see a split where Allah is talking about your attitude towards the creation, and this will then affect your attitude and your response from the skies. And some of the Salaf have said that a person may be seen as being very significant with the people, very rich, powerful, riba, etc., but he is not mentioned in the sky at all. Zero, bankrupt. But a person may be rich in the sky and people are talking about this person a lot and a lot and a lot. In the dunya, is absolutely zero. Allah is at-Tayyib. Some of the ulama have said that Tayyib is not one of the names of Allah. Some of the ulama have said yes, it is. Whatever the case, Tayyib refers to being pure and free from any kind of defection. And because he is Tayyib, he only accepts what is Tayyib. If you are pure in yourself, then you are going to reject anything which conflicts against your morality, conflicts against the ethics, conflicts against maybe your culture. We do this on a daily basis. If something is invalid, you can't process it. Your bank won't accept it, your workplace won't accept it, and this is Allah. To Allah is the highest example. He is Tayyib and He will only accept what is Tayyib. But what is Tayyib now? لا يقبل إلا طيبة. What is Tayyib? Ibn Rajab rahimahullah said, when you have ikhlas, this is the very beginning of all kinds of Tayyib and purity. When you are sincere and you have a clean heart, your deeds will become clean. Your tongue will become clean. Your actions will become clean. Your aqeedah will become clean. Allah says in the Quran, إِلَيْهِ يَسْأَلُ الْكَلِمُ الطَّيِّبُ وَعَمَلُ الصَّالِحِ يَرْفَعُهُ. Good words, good actions go up to Allah. What's the opposite understanding? No good actions, no ikhlas, no sincerity in the heart, no good actions, no good statements, static. It doesn't go up to Allah. Will not be accepted. So clearly from this ayah, from this hadith, when you do good actions, it will connect you to Allah. Otherwise, it will not be accepted. لا يقبل إلا الطيب. And this all goes back to the very first hadith that we saw, and your connection with Allah, and your connection with the aqeedah, and your connection with the level of respect that you give to this religion. Ibn Rajab rahimahullah then goes on to talk about the importance of tawheed and warning against shirk, because all of this would be futile if you have shirk. You can only build upon something which is tayyib. And tayyib here, then he goes on to mention the example in Surah Ibrahim, كَشَجَرَةِ الطَّيِّبَ. And the tafsir given by the ulama is that the goodly tree, the upright tree, is the tree which has a firm foundation. This firm foundation is a correct aqeedah with tawheed. If you have that, then you can build upon it with goodness in actions and statements. If that tree is not planted correctly, it will just blow away with the wind. And then he gives examples of how internal actions can affect your external. So he's giving examples of riya. What's riya? What's showing off? Okay, so if I have nice clothes, is that riya? Why?
Doing acts of worship for people to see.
So that's a very interesting and important component. Riya is when you try to appear to be pious when you're not pious. So inside, you know that. But when you go out there, they don't know that. This is one example when Allah will not accept it. This is not tayyib. Arrogance, like the brother Hassan was saying. Self-adoration. I'm good. I'm better than everybody else. I pray salah, I'm half the Quran, I'm rich, etc. None of this will be accepted from Allah because this is not what He wants. He doesn't want it. You can pray tahajjud all night, but if you haven't done the tayyib internally, then the external tayyib will not benefit you in the slightest. Then Allah's Messenger went on to say, when Allah amara al-mu'minin bima amara bil mursaleen, He commanded us the same thing that He commanded the messengers. Ya ayyuha rusul kulu min tayyibat. What does Allah end the ayah with? Wa'malu salih. Eat from the good, take your transactions correctly, preserve it, take it seriously, eat what is khair, eat what is good for you. What will be the end result? You will end up doing good deeds. You see the connection in the ayah? It's quite clear. Eat, kulu min tayyibat, then you will have tawfiq to do amal salih. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, kulu min tayyibat ma razaqnakum. You have the tayyibat, we will give you rizq. You give shukr, we will give you the rizq. If you don't have it, then it's not going to be rizq. And the ulama have referred to rizq as being something which is actually beneficial for you. You could have £1 million in the bank. If you don't benefit from it, it's not rizq. You could have £1 million in the bank, but if that's going to get you to the hellfire, can you call that rizq? What provision is that? It's not provided you with anything. Kulu min tayyibat wa'malu salihah. There's a strong connection between what the Prophet ﷺ took these ayat, and these are the commands that have been given to the messengers, and it's the command that remains until Yawm al-Qiyamah for the mu'mineen. Also, Ibn Rajab then goes on to talk about that if you live your life like this, constantly reviewing your connection with the one that is tayyib and the only one that accepts what is tayyib and pure, then what Allah describes is that person in his death. And now he quotes an ayah which describes the death of a person who is tayyib, a person who is pure, is led a life of purity. الَّذِينَ تَتَوَفَّاهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ طَيِّبِينَ. These malaika will come down and they will have the level of purity that he had throughout his life, but this is the time when he needs it the most. His death will be tayyib. There's a narration which again has some kind of weakness, where the Prophet ﷺ said that when the angels, making tafsir of this ayah, when the angels, even if it's not a statement of the Prophet ﷺ, then I think it can be taken as being one of the statements of at least from the Mufassirun, if not from one of the Salaf. When the angels come down and they take the soul of this person, they will say to this person, Ya ayyatuha nafs tayyiba. Oh soul. It will talk to not you, it will talk to your soul. It will come down and it will say, pure soul that used to be in a body which is pure. That body is just a shell, it's a cocoon for you. But he comes and he talks to your soul. The malaika, so this is now the angel that's taking your soul. The rest of the malaika want to give you salam. They want to give you salam. Time of death, he comes down. Don't fear. Don't have any grief. Why fear and grief? لا تخاف ولا تحزن. Fear because you don't know what's going to happen. Grief because you're going to miss your loved ones and your dunya. The angels will come and they'll reassure you. They will say, tranquil soul or blessed pure soul, I'm here, I'm come to take your soul. But the other malaika around me, they want to give you salam. And they're here to tell you also, I'm here to tell you that good news that you will go to Jannah. And these angels will see you again when you're about to go to Jannah, and they'll give you salam when you go to Jannah, and they will say tibtum. This is a play on the words, or it's part of the morphology. I think you can follow this already. But Allah is tayyib. Tayyaba refers to what is pure and what is good. When somebody wants to give you glad tidings, and when they want to say you have a nice life and enjoy it, they can say tibtum in Arabic. So they will say to him, it's the same root word, go and enjoy yourself. And there's also another hadith, Ibn Rajab then goes on to say that when a person goes to meet his brother for the sake of Allah, the angels say about that person, so I'm going to this brother's house, and I want to visit him for the sake of Allah, the angels say, Tibta wa tab mamshak. You're walking and your visiting is pure. And for you there is going to be a level in Jannah which is guaranteed for you. He goes on and he gives different examples of how, purity internally and in your actions and in your statements can benefit you. And I don't think time permits it. But here, then he goes on, Rahimahullah ibn Rajab, to say that this hadith is extremely important in your lifestyle. Because all of us want goodness, all of us have weaknesses, all of us have troubles, family members, health, whatever it is, all of us want a way out. And here, Rahimahullah, he's saying that the only way that you can have a good lifestyle and a good way to have that way out is when you have goodness from the beginning. Because that goodness from the beginning will lead to more goodness. And any kind of affliction that will come in your life when you are faced with a mas'ala, car's broken down, bills are coming in, other things are happening, it's all piling on. All of this goodness that you have set for you, you will find definitely a way out. He then goes on to say, because badness can never overcome goodness. Because inna Allah tayyib. And Allah is with the one who is tayyib. Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anh said, Inna al-khabith la yukaffir. Khabith and badness can never expiate anything. You do bad deeds, you have bad intentions, you have bad actions, you have bad statements, that will never benefit you at all. It will never expiate you from the problems that you are facing. But tayyib, what is good, yukaffiru kabith. What is good, what is wholesome, what is piety, what is cleanliness, what is sincerity will always overcome what is bad. Bad in yourself, bad in your desires, bad in your lust, bad things happening in your life, bad actions, you've got weaknesses, you've got bad habits. All of that can overcome if you have that sense of goodness. I know one person, he was smoking cigarettes for 20, 30 years. And he tried to stop, but he just kept going back. Tried to stop, kept going back. He genuine. We can see that he was quite genuine. We know he's genuine because he ended up stopping. And then he just kept making dua. He just kept making dua, and he tried, literally he was trying very, very hard. He changed his routine, he changed his friends, he even went to Umrah. He said, I made a lot of dua that I can stop, and came back. And then eventually, all of that effort paid off. All of that effort paid off, alhamdulillah, and we ask Allah's steadfastness for him and for us all. That all that goodness paid off, because look at how he tried hard, and look what he has been saved from. Some of the lessons that we learn from this hadith is that it's very important for us to self-rectify and self-reflect and make your ego humble towards Allah. Admit your weakness, admit your shortcomings, because that's the only way that Allah will accept you. Allah will not accept you if you think that you are good. Allah will not accept you if you are arrogant. Allah will not accept you if you think you're doing enough. Allah wants you to be weak because you are weak. Allah wants you to be a servant because you are a servant. Allah wants you to admit to Him because you've got plenty to admit. It also shows us the importance of financial zakat, so the financial purification. So you have spiritual in this hadith, but the Prophet ﷺ is also talking about that which is financial. Because through that financial, it will affect your iman. It will affect your iman. He then goes on talking about mas'ala is that if you've got haram wealth, how can you make it tayyib and how can you go away from that? He goes on to that and talks about it extensively. He then brings a point where he says that it's prohibited for us wasting our wealth and rizq on something which is haram. This bottle of water has been written for me to drink, but it's upon me now to decide. Do I want to accept this in a halal way or do I want to accept it in a haram way? If you do it in the halal way, then you will be following what the messengers have been commanded with and what the people of Iman have been commanded with. If you want to accept it in the haram way, then that's not going to benefit you in the slightest. It's not going to benefit you, it's not really going to nourish you, and it's going to have an adverse effect on your lifestyle, whether you realize it or not. Mortgage, alcohol, drugs, free mixing, all these things are happening in society, but people are still not happy. Also, we learn from this end bit of the hadith, and this is a very interesting bit here now. And Ibn Rajab now goes on to talk about the adab of making dua. Does anybody know what are some of the etiquettes that you need to have when you are making dua? Just lift your hands. You don't need to lift. You lift your hands?
Yeah.
Lift your hands. Face the Qibla. Salah and Prophet Sallallahu
Praising Allah first.
Praising Allah first. All of this is khair. In this narration here, we have a man who has travelled a long distance and he was dishevelled and dusty. And from this, the ulama have said that being in a state of desperation will lead for your dua to be accepted. This condition is there. He was travelling. The dua of the traveller is accepted or not? The dua of the traveller is accepted. 2 boxes are ticked. He was in a bad state. أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ مُضْطَرْ إِذَا دَعَى وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءِ. Allah will take away from you the hardships that you are facing when a person says, Ya Rab, Ya Rab. Whether you're Muslim or not Muslim. Iblis made dua. And Allah gave it to him. Iblis made dua. Allah answered his dua. So now he was traveling, he had a need, his state was bad. Then what did he do? يَمُدُّ يَدَيْهِ. He raised his hands. Ibn Rajab goes on to talk about sometimes the hands have to be like this, sometimes the hands have to be like this, sometimes the hands have to be like this, and sometimes your hands are facing down. And this is a way of getting dua accepted. Example, at-tahiyyat. Can you do at-tahiyyat like that? No, that's not the sunnah. Probably do like this. He goes on and talks about that more. But raising your hands have a huge impact on the dua. So this man, traveling, is in a bad state, he raised his hands. Then what did he do? Ya Rab, Ya Rab. In the Quran, Allah's rububiyyah is referred to in dua in several places, in all places. Only rarely do you find in the dua, in the Quran, with Allahumma. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 now. Was his dua accepted? It was rejected. 1, 2, 5 conditions were present. His dua was rejected. What about us now, brothers? We come to the masjid, we think we're good. We wear thobe, hijab. We live an Islamic lifestyle. The problem here is not looking at you, me. The problem here is he didn't rectify and self-reflect and look at where the problem is. The problem always is with us. Always. Don't look at your brother and say, look, I've seen him do this, I've seen him do that, and you forget yourself. Then you will be as guilty as this man. Ibn Rajab rahimahullah then goes on to say, this shows you the importance of ikhlas. It shows you the importance of righteous deeds. And it also, this hadith shows us the importance of having righteous transactions and ethics and attitudes with one another. Sort yourself out, because you need to be tayyib. If you are tayyib, then Allah will give you tawfiq. If Allah gives you tawfiq, then you will be acting like the anbiya and the rusul, because you will be reflecting yourself, and then you will be given tawfiq to do righteous acts. If you don't, then you will just be like this man, tired, wanting to get closer to Allah, thinking that you are going to get an answer. فَأَنَّا يُسْتَجَابُ لِذَلِكَ. Hadith number 11, Hadi Ashar, which is very short, the hadith of Abu Muhammad al-Hasan ibn Ali ibn Abu Talib. That's wrong. It should be Ibn Abi Talib, yeah. It says Ibn Abu Talib. The grandson of the Messenger narrated this hadith, who said, I memorized from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, da' ma yuribuk ila ma la yuribuk. Leave that what makes you doubt for that which does not make you doubt. And this hadith, Ibn Rajab rahimahullah, tells us the importance of having yaqeen, the importance of having certainty, the importance of having ilm, because you will not have certainty without ilm. And it also teaches us the importance of being tranquil in the religion. Have sufficiency in the religion. Seek tranquility in the religion. Seek satisfaction from the religion. This one, that ma yuribuk, there is no riba, there is no doubt. La riba fi, hudan lil muttaqin. There is no doubt in following this book. You follow this book with having ilm and yaqeen, you will have tranquility in this life. Also, we learn from this hadith is that there is a warning against having doubts, and a warning against falling into things that will make you become worried. Because the Prophet ﷺ is telling us, don't follow the ways that will keep you doubtful, keep you ignorant, keep you uncertain, because those things will make you worry. The more ignorant you are, the more worry you will have. The more uncertain you are, the more worries you have. What are we talking about certainty? Certainty is talking about your belief in the akhirah, your belief in your Lord. You're going through a difficulty, my Lord will help me. Tawakkul, sabr, hope, fear, all of these things are connected in certainty and yaqeen, and that you will know that if I do the right thing, I will have a way out, whether it's in the dunya or in the akhirah. This is yaqeen, and this is what this hadith is telling us. In الصدق طمأنينة والكذب ريبة, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that Ibn Rajab then goes on to quote, and he said that this hadith is very similar to this, that truthfulness, certainty, truthfulness, the ilm, sidq, like we were talking about a couple of hadith before, this will give you tranquility in your life. This will give you a very firm position, and it will not be shaken. Anything that could happen to you, it will not be shaken. It will give you the tawfiq to have sabr. It will give you the tawfiq to go forward and not be pessimistic, not let shaitan overcome you and become depressed and think of haram ways out. No, sidq will help you to have tranquility, and this tranquility will spur you on to do good. Wal-kadhib riba, uncertainty, denial, rejection, ignorance, all of that will lead to doubts. When you are doubtful, you will fall into sin. You could fall into kufr. You could fall into worries. What we learn from this hadith also are four. This hadith has been used by the ulama of fiqh extensively, and there are at least four principles that we can learn from this hadith. And the principle number one, which are found in the books of fiqh, is that the asal is ibaha. That the origin of everything is that it's mubah. Is it permissible for me to drink water? Of course. Da ma yuribuk ila ma la yuribuk. And Ahl Sunnah are of the opinion that everything is permissible. So there is no doubt in me drinking water. There is no doubt in me going somewhere to eat. There is no doubt in me wearing a particular type of clothing or driving a particular car. There is no doubt, because the asal is that it's halal. And there is no doubt in this. So don't go into excessive questioning, etc. about it, unless there is a reason for you to question it. That's when the doubt comes in. When there is a doubt, then leave it. But the asal is halal. That's principle number one. Principle number two is that people cannot be rebuked for trying to do the right thing. A person might think, okay, this water might not be halal for me because it might be a waqf, and I'm not going to drink it in the masjid. I'm going to drink it because I need it for my work. I'm not going to drink it because I want to recite Quran or do something like this. Another person might come and say, no, I'm going to take it. It's there, I'm going to take it. What's wrong with it? This person now can't say anything bad about this person. You can advise him and say, maybe you shouldn't, maybe you should ask. But if a person, both of these are trying to do the right thing, then another person cannot be rebuked. Why? Because there is no certainty. There is no certainty. A person can be rebuked if he is not following or if he is being negligent. So this is now maybe principle number three. if a person doesn't leave what is doubtful for the sake of not being safer and not questioning and not trying to find out, then he can be somebody who has not listened to the statement of the Prophet ﷺ here, "Da' ma yuribuk," leave what makes you doubt. Therefore, he can be sinful. And we looked at this, I believe, last week, where we were talking about a person in the Hadith No.9-13 Bashir, وَمَنْ وَقَعَ فِي الشُّبْهَاتِ وَقَعَ فِي الْحَرَامِ. And Umar radiallahu anh said that there is no ghibah for a person who continually falls into shubhat. Islamic finance, yeah, halal. Somebody signed it off, I don't know who it is, it's halal. Go in that restaurant, yeah, it's halal. KFC, it's halal. HFA, what's wrong with it? Halal. Brother, did you even find out? No, it's halal. Don't talk to me. وَمَنْ وَقَعَ فِي الشُّبْهَاتِ. If there is a shubha, for me it's a shubha. Maybe, now this is the point here, and this is a good example. If this person has read on HFA website, it's halal, and he's got firm conviction that it's halal, can you rebuke him? He's doing what he thinks is right. That might rebuke, another principle, so now principle number 4, and the ulama have extensively taken this in the abwab of tahara, in purification, wudu and ghusl, and cleaning yourself, najasa, and going to the bathroom, etc., that you do not pay any attention to what is uncertain. You do not pay any attention to what is uncertain. It's happened today. A person went to the bathroom after Salatul Jum'ah, came out, and the sleeves were wet. Prayed Salatul Jum'ah, and the sleeves were wet. After, they were like this. I don't know if this water here, is it urine or is it wudu? What do you say to this person? It happens. What do you say to this person? If you have genuine reason, I wasn't there, if you have genuine reason to believe this is urine, then this is urine. If you have genuine reason to believe this is water, it made wudu, which is most likely, then this is water. Da' ma yuribuk ila ma la yuribuk. If you think it's water, then it's water. If you think it's urine, then it's urine. Unfortunately, wallahi al-azim, I know people who haven't prayed in decades because of this problem. They think that they're impure, they think that they're not clean, they think they're not clean enough to stand in front of Allah. And I actually even know one person who hasn't prayed in such a long time. When they hear the Quran being recited, they say, I can't take it, something bad is happening in my head. Allah knows best if the person is possessed or not, Allah knows best. But they say, just recite quietly. I can't take the adhan, I cannot take the recitation of the Quran. What is that? Because they didn't understand this hadith. 15 minutes. Also, the ulama have said from this hadith, and we looked at this before, I don't want to repeat it, but from this also we have another principle, which is, what do you take? You have two conflicting opinions. This group of scholars say that it's halal. Another group of scholars, same mas'ala, say it's haram. Cryptocurrencies, halal or haram? Some people, well, I don't know anyone that says halal, but if you have a fatwa now saying that it's halal, majority of the ulama have said it's haram. What do you do? I don't understand the khilaf. I don't understand. These people are saying this thing. It's too technical for me. What do I do? From this we learn, da' ma yuribuk ila ma la yuribuk. You go with what is safer. And we looked at this extensively before. Some of the ulama, like Ibn Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, in his Shar also, and others from the Salaf, like Ibn Mas'ud, Salman al-Farsi, and others from the ulama say, no, you can follow what is easier. You can follow the rukhsah. But that is for a different day, and we've already kind of discussed that anyway. Hadith Thani Ashar is the hadith number 12. The hadith of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anh, who said, Messenger of Allah, what's Abu Hurairah's name? Abdurrahman Sakhr radiallahu anh, who said that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, from the perfection of a man's Islam, min husn al-Islam al-mar' tarkuhu ma la ya'ni, is to leave what does not concern him. This should be written in gold. Had the Prophet ﷺ seen WhatsApp, had he seen social media, what would he have said? And unfortunately, a person falls into what doesn't concern him because, like we were saying, these set of hadith are talking about your akhlaq. And if your internal akhlaq is not strong, then your external will also be impacted. But we've said that before. But Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah gives an example. Why does a person end up doing ghibah? Why does a person, what's the process that he goes through? Does he just wake up and say, I don't like this guy. He did this, I saw him do this, I saw him do that. Allah protect us. What does he go through? Initially, he goes through a series of processes inside. This is what Ibn Qayyim said in Kitab al-Ruh. He goes through a series of processes inside, and all of those processes are negative. Bad thoughts, dwells upon it, thinks about it again. Yeah, and he did this as well. And what he does, he cements it and cements it and cements it and cements it, and his heart becomes harder and harder and harder. Then ghibah, namima, insults, swearing, all of these things. But what happens is that it happens internally. And if your internal is not perfection, min husn al-Islam al-mar tarku ma, if you are not engaging internally with what will benefit you, then shaitan will make you dwell upon things that will not benefit you. This is the point. And if shaitan overcomes you in this manner, then what's going to happen? If it's not shirk, then it's major sin. If it's not shirk, this is major sin. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah then goes on to say that the opposite is also true. The cleaner the heart, the cleaner the thoughts, the cleaner the thought process. And what he will end up doing is move from one act of worship to another act of worship internally. I love this brother. I love him because he's always in the masjid. And he recites a lot of Quran. And his recitation is very nice. And he's benefited so many people. And he's got good manners that he continues and heart gets cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. And every single part of that process is an act of worship. Then what happens? That's internal. Then what happens? External, his tongue. You know this brother? He's a good brother. You should get close to him. You should make him a friend. You should tell him to come to our house. And this will then just increase in good deeds. And there's a parable that the Prophet ﷺ gave in the Hadith that good deeds yahdi al-birr wal-birr yahdi al-jannah. Bad deeds would lead towards fujur, and fujur would lead to the hellfire. Step by step. Some of the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum, they said that when I find myself engaging in something that doesn't concern me, I find that my heart becomes cleaner towards other Muslims or towards the Muslimin. When I find myself busying myself in things that actually concern me, I find myself becoming a better person, and my transactions and my thoughts about other people become better. Then you get a ping on your phone. Yeah, look at this video, look at what this person said, look at this Twitter, look at this Allah knows best what's out there. That will then lead you back into what will not concern you. The Salaf from this ummah have said Zuhud has 4 aspects. Zuhud is not to wear wool. Zuhud is not to drive a Datsun Nissan 50 years old. Zuhud is not to leave the dunya. Zuhud has 4 aspects of the Salaf. Number 1, leave what is haram. Straight up. Fajtanibu. Number 2, leave what is makruh. Number 3, and this is the point here, leave what is excessive in mubahat. Zuhd, haram. Makruh, fudul mubahat or ibahat. When you leave excessive indulgences, this is zuhd. Now if you go down London Road, Evington Road, all you see is fudul after fudul. If people are eating, they don't need to eat. People are talking, they don't need to talk. People are watching and they don't need to watch. When you're becoming excessive in indulgences, in satisfying your desires and your hobbies and your wants and your needs, then you move away from zuhd. And the fourth part of zuhd is when you leave shubuhat and you have no doubts. As you can see, these hadith are closely connected. We've just talked about doubts, and now we are talking about leaving what doesn't concern you. And leaving what doesn't concern you includes, and it starts off with you trying to rectify yourself against your own desires. So in a nutshell, to conclude this hadith, Ibn Rajab rahimahullah is as if he is saying your status in the dunya depends on the level of engagement that you have with the dunya. Yeah? Your status in the dunya depends on how connected and level of engagement that you have with the dunya. If your connection to the dunya and your engagement is strong, then your akhirah will be weak. If your connection in the dunya is for the sake of the akhirah, and this is why we were talking about zuhd a second ago, then your connection to the akhirah will be even stronger. Then you will leave that will not concern you for the sake of Allah. This is the method. This is how you are going to do it. How do you leave something? I understand the hadith. I understand quite clearly what the Prophet ﷺ said. Leave something which doesn't concern me. But how do I know what doesn't concern me now? This is the question. I get a ping on my WhatsApp. I'm getting called every single day. How do I know what concerns me or not? This is what. If it is haram, if it is makruh, if it is excessiveness which has no benefit, or if they are calling you towards doubt, then this is indulging in things which has no khair in it, has no concern for you, and it will only create a stronger connection with your dunya and a weaker connection with your akhirah. There's a hadith, again, maybe this is Hassan, inshallah. The Prophet ﷺ said, if a person's Islam becomes perfect, إذا أحسن أحدكم إسلامه فكل حسنة يعملها تكتب له بأشر أمثالها. If you leave what doesn't concern you and you perfect your Islam and you're constantly trying to rectify your iman inside and outside your actions, then Allah has promised from His mercy that He will multiply your rewards from 10 times إلى 700 ضعف, to 700 times. وكل سيئة يعملها تكتب له بمثلها until حتى يلقي الله, until he meets Allah. This is a similar hadith that we've seen before. But the point here is that when you leave what doesn't concern you, you will have a multiplication in khair and you will be expiated without even realizing it. And this is why Ibn Rajab then goes on to say that multiplication begins with a level of goodness that has to begin from inside. So in a nutshell, what this hadith teaches us, that all of us have past, all of us have done things that we're not proud of, maybe embarrassed of, but that doesn't really seem to matter, does it? Because if you leave now what doesn't concern you from now on, and you try and seek what will benefit you and you plan for the future, then bi'idhnillah you will see a multiplication in a lot of khair from manners or ways that you do not even imagine. Very quick, with 5 minutes, let's take hadith number 13. It's a hadith of Abu Abdullah. Anybody have any questions? Shall we do the hadith? Shall we do it in 4 minutes? Hadith number 13, the hadith of Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu. I heard the Prophet ﷺ say, no, I'm looking at the wrong hadith. Hadith number 13, which is the hadith of Abu Hanza, Anas bin Malik, the person who used to assist the Prophet ﷺ, who said, none of you truly believe, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. None of you truly believe, none of you have perfected your iman until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. And what this teaches us is that when you have weakness in your deeds, you will have a weakness in your iman. Your iman gets stronger, your deeds will get better. Your iman is weaker, your deeds will become weak. And there's ijma from Ahlul Sunnah say that your iman goes up and down. And the opposite is also true, where they've said that when a person طيب, okay, let's leave that, let's carry on. What we learn from this hadith, Ibn Rajab rahimahullah is saying that if your iman is strong, then your love for your brother will be strong, because this hadith falls into kamal al-iman, and Ahl Sunnah have categorized actions as being part of iman categorically. There's ijma' on this also, but some of these actions are either a shart of iman, some of them are wujub al-iman, some of them are kamal al-iman. Some of them, if you don't do this action, then you will not have iman. Some of these actions, if you do it, your iman will become strong, and this is a wajib. If you don't do it, then that level of weakness will be a sin against you. But some of these actions, if you do it, then your iman will become good and strong, but if you don't do it, then you will not be held accountable. And this is one of them. But Ibn Rajab rahimahullah is saying that doesn't necessarily mean that you can be satisfied with this weakness. He's saying if your iman is strong, then your love for your brother will be strong. And there's a version in Sahih Muslim where the Prophet ﷺ asked, do you want to go Jannah? You want to go Jannah? Anybody will say no? I don't think anybody will say no. Prophet ﷺ in Sahih Muslim said, then love for your brother what you love for yourself, in a different context, a different background to this hadith. And we looked at last week nasiha. What is nasiha? I don't know if anybody was here from last week. What is nasiha? Nasiha is when you want good for your brother, genuinely. You will teach him what is good, you will want what is good. If he is happy, you become happy. If he is sad and if he is affected by something, then you genuinely become affected. If you see him doing something good, you genuinely are happy for that person. If you see him doing something bad, you genuinely want him to be rectified, and we will give him advice. This is nasiha. And this is what this hadith is telling us also. Ibn Rajab rahimahullah said that this hadith teaches us that we need to cooperate with one another in goodness and not in badness, because Allah wants for us guidance. And when something bad happens, you become disappointed genuinely for that brother, but then you will advise him, etc. Also from this hadith rahimahullah, he said what we learn is that you want good for your brother also, but when it comes to actions, then you need to prepare yourself, save yourself, and then look at trying to benefit others, and ask Allah to make this beneficial for us all, and that Allah doesn't make this our last meeting in studying the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. This is hadith number 13, and bi'idhnillah from next week we will look at some of the hadith which talk about the virtues of statements that a person can make. So with this week we've looked at some of the akhlaq, and next week we will look at the power of your tongue and the statements that you can have and the reward that they can bring with your Lord Jalla wa ala. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.